Bill Nye Saves the World is a new Netflix original series starring, you guessed it, Bill Nye. It's supposed to be about Bill Nye, quote, tackling a topic from a scientific point of view, dispelling myths, and refuting anti-scientific claims that may be espoused by politicians, religious leaders, or titans of industry. And this actually sounded very interesting to me when it was announced. The idea excited me because I really like Bill Nye. Then when it first came out, I was told by numerous people that it was amazing and I had to see it. I didn't watch it until now, and wow, I can't remember the last time I was so intensely disappointed by something so promising. Okay, well, maybe I can, but you get the idea. This show lacks everything about Bill Nye, his brand of comedy and sense of humor that makes him enjoyable to watch. So what happened? What in the name of evolution theory could have happened? Well, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to find out. Part 1. Education. Possibly the most angering grievance I have with this show is that there's almost no science involved at all. Bill Nye the Science Guy used to feature in-depth explanations and demonstrations of specific scientific topics, and it struck a perfect balance between entertaining and informative. This new show is neither. The English language simply isn't precise enough for me to be able to describe the contrast in educational value between this and The Science Guy. Let me just give you a few examples. Episode 1, Earth is a Hot Mess. Bill calls out climate change deniers, meaning he uses an annoying, ironic stoner voice to mock them. He also breaks down the science of global warming, meaning he takes 30 seconds to half-heartedly describe the greenhouse effect in layman's terms. Somehow they also manage to force in pop culture references that have nothing to do with the topic, or Bill Nye, or science in general. I say they because I don't want to believe he's involved with the writing of the show in any way, though I am disheartened to know that he's credited as such. Episode 2, Tune Your Quackometer. Bill Nye and the team debunk alternative medicine, including an explanation into the placebo effect, and why we think something works when it has no basis in science proof. He starts by explaining magnets, sort of. He demonstrates a magnetic material in use and then says something along the lines of, it's not magic, it's science, but makes no effort to specifically explain what happened or how or why it happened. You know what, at this point I think I'm gonna fast forward to episode 9, which is what I'm sure you all expected me to address when you read the title. It's called The Sexual Spectrum. Basically, Bill Nye explains that there are biological human genders beyond male and female. In fact, there's an entire spectrum, which is of course false. It's just not true. Him coming out and claiming this made the scientific community go wild, and reasonably so, I suppose. Episode 13, Earth's People Problem. Bill talks about addressing overpopulation by empowering women. When I first read that, I actually thought it was written by someone complaining about the show being bad. That's actually the description of the episode. The logic here is that if women are empowered to pursue careers in science, technology, engineering, and math, they'll be less likely to have children, so the birth rate will go down. I guess I can see why someone would think that would make sense, but I mean, to effectively curb the birth rate, you'd have to get hundreds of millions of people into one career cluster. A lot of them might not want to, some of them won't succeed. It just isn't exactly a practical solution to a problem that's on such a large scale. While it's a problem in and of itself, the respected member of the scientific community is coming on claiming things that aren't true. What's worse is that there's no citation of information or peer review, so it's hard to believe that what's being presented isn't driven by a pre-existing agenda. So at this point, I absolutely refuse to believe that Bill Nye is actually the head writer of this show, because each episode literally revolves around him lazily tying a social issue into something scientific. Like, empowering women isn't something Bill Nye normally cares about at all, but overpopulation would be, so all I can picture as I watch is like a team of writers trying to figure out the easiest way to put a scientific spin on their own opinions, while Bill Nye sits in the corner counting his money. And that's where it loses all of its educational value. The show is driven by a desire to sway public opinion rather than to promote scientific knowledge, and it's really obvious. I think something important to note is that in episode 13, Bill says that 1 million people are born in a week, which is also just not true. About 350,000 people are born in a day, which also means that closer to 2.5 million people are born in a week. You can call that a nitpick, I guess, but I honestly think it speaks to the show's carelessness as well as lack of respect for the goal of scientific study in the first place. And with that, I'm moving on to part 2, comedy. I'll admit the aspect of the show that's supposed to be funny isn't the worst thing about it, but it actually hinders my ability to enjoy the show, so I'm complaining about it regardless. In summary, cringe. The jokes are so humorless it's embarrassing. Let's talk about episode 3, Machines Take Over the World. Okay, tangent here, but machines aren't taking over the world. People make artificial intelligence. Are we gonna make a machine that produces electricity in a way that we can't control, that takes over for us? Really? Who's gonna build that machine? Oh, and I'm actually quoting Bill Nye. So episode 3 starts with a skit where Bill plays a therapist speaking to an artificially intelligent coffee pot.
Sounds like you've been working too hard. You need to relax more.
I've tried.
But then I find what relaxes me most is killing all humans. Stage 1, complete. Stage 2, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
If that doesn't speak for itself, I don't know what will. The show's sense of humor just doesn't match with that of Bill Nye. This man is known for his wit and snark, and this series has none of that. Actually, it does, it's just really dumbed down. Basically, if the host were anyone else, I might not actually care about this show, and if I did, it would probably have an effect on why I hate it. And something else that's always perplexed me about this is the impressively high level of engagement from the live audience. They seem to be pretty dull in the skull themselves. I mean, they laugh at every single joke no matter what, and to me that's enough to be suspicious that their reactions aren't real. Yeah, comedy's subjective, that's pretty much blasé at this point, but I still find it hard to believe that not one person who went to the first live taping was even a little disenchanted.
And Tang. Ah, yes, Tang. The nectar of the gods.
Seriously, come on! Part 3. Structure. I feel like I have to give you an idea of what this is like to watch, so here I go. A normal episode starts with Bill Nye giving a brief introduction to a topic, and this usually takes a few minutes. Sometimes he uses props to demonstrate certain ideas, but I do have to remind you that there's little to no science involved here. Other times there are skits before or after this, though there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to why or when those take place. Usually after this, there's an untimely segue into a little short film narrated and presented by someone who isn't Bill Nye, and they can be quite interesting actually, but then it ends and the person who narrated or presented the short appears as a panelist and they talk for a long time. Sometimes some dumb jokes are sprinkled in there as well. Then afterwards there are more panelists to talk about a subject, and that normally takes up the remainder of the episode. It's pretty boring thereafter because once again they don't talk explicitly about science. Final thoughts. This show sucks. Thanks for watching, everyone. This is just a friendly reminder that I have an Instagram now, @VickleJCologne. Follow me if you want to see pictures like these ones. Goodbye.